Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I wish all the best for all of you. And I have something else for all of you that are new on my channel and you are visiting my channel for the first time. Please subscribe me and leave a comment in the section below. So, today we're gonna talk about top 10 oldest castles in the world. Human beings have needed fortification for the whole length of their history. In the beginning, the natural formations of rock and wood played the role of shelter, to be built upon and improved in later eons and across countless generations. Forts and fortifications from once mighty civilizations have changed hands and been added to throughout the centuries, providing a timeline for the great bastions of the ancient ages in the very working of earth and stone. As time rolled inexorably on, so too did humanity's pursuit of settled lands rather than nomadic trails, and those settled lands required defenses. As the nature of conflict between the settled areas of the world altered, and as weaponry advanced and shifted in form, the nature of those defenses changed as well. Earth forts were replaced by tall castle walls, only to be replaced again by trenches during the First World War. Castles, as we think of them in the West, often we have a medieval fairy tale aesthetic, which stems from a mythology more than a practical understanding of what these great fortifications were and how they were used. The very concept of castle has entered our mythic consciousness, building on the ancient roots of our fortified civilizations through the ages and carrying with it both an aesthetic and an emotional resonance that is impossible to ignore. Number 10. Warwick Castle. The Warwick Castle is established in 1068 CE and is located in Warwickshire, England. Placed in the strategically important position, Warwick Castle actually stands on the site of an older Anglo-Saxon burgh, a defensive fort built over 100 years earlier in 914. It was William the Conqueror who built the original moat and bailey castle after the Norman conquest of England, since the castle's location made it an important defense against a Midland rebellion. The moat and bailey construction was replaced in the middle century by stone castle keep, and further extensive refortification took place in the 14th century as well. One of the world's largest fully functional siege engines, a 59-foot-tall trebuchet made from over 300 pieces of oak and reproduction built using the expertise of the Danish Living History Museum, Middle Dansentrad. It remains one of the castle's greatest attractions, as well as laying claim to being the most siege engine of its type. Number 9. Burgalimar Castle. The Burgalimar Castle is established in the 10th century CE and is located in Banos de la Encina, Spain. This region of Spain has been recognized by the UNESCO as especially important due to the impressive number of standing castles that dominate the countryside. Due to the strategic value of the region, during the Middle Ages, when tensions between Islamic and Christian countries were at a feverish high, fortifications sprouted as if grown from the very ground itself. Burgalimar Castle is remarkably well preserved for its age, with its stunning towers and battlements retaining their original caliphal design. Despite some damage during the Peninsular War, it has remained intact, a true monument to the ages. The hill on which Burgalimar Castle rests shows signs of inhabitation from Roman and pre-Roman times, with a clear indication of inhabitation by the early Celtic people of the region. During the 12th century, control of this region passed back and forth several times between the Caliphate and Christian forces, before definitively falling under Castilian control in 1200 25. The last modifications were made in the 15th century when one of its 14 towers received improvements. Number 8. Eltz Castle. Eltz Castle is established in the 9th century CE and is located in Weilheim, Germany. Eltz Castle started out as a manor home, Platzelt, that grew from a defensive earthen palisade into a fortified keep. By 1157 it was considered an important fortress along the Holy Roman trade route. Due to laws of inheritance at the time, the castle was and still is owned by 3 different families, which 2 sections opened to the public and 1 still reserved for the Campanich family. While many prominent castles have been sacked, destroyed, and rebuilt through the ages, Eltz Castle has the distinction of never having been laid low through siege. The one time that Eltz Castle was put to siege when the lords of Eltzer and other free imperial knights of the Holy Roman Empire opposed an attempt by the Archbishop of Trier to reincorporate their holdings into the local administrative district and subvert them to centralized control. When the free knights resisted, Eltz Castle were bombarded by catapults, but around 1337 the fight ended with Archbishop's successful bid to bring the knights under centralized control. He returned control of the local lands to the knights, but only as recognized vassals, no longer free. Number 7. Prague Castle. The Prague Castle is established in 870 CE and is located in Prague, Czech Republic. The history of Prague Castle is one of the continual growth, expansion, and renewal, a history that has seen it become the largest coherent castle complex in the world. It all began with the Church of the Virgin Mary, followed by the Basilica of St. George and St. Vitus. In the 14th century, vast improvements to the fortification and living spaces were made, with a heavy influence of Gothic-style architecture. Throughout the following 3 centuries, mainly due to damage from fires, the castle was rebuilt and refurbished several times, taking on elements of different styles from each age. Number 6. Chittorgarh, Hill Fort of Rajasthan. It is established in the 8th century CE or earlier and is located in Rajasthan, India. One of the most defining features of this ancient fortification is the massive natural water catchment, which has a total storage capacity of around 4 billion liters, enough to provide an army of 50,000 over the centuries. The fort changed hands several times, with one of the greatest battles taking place in the 16th century, where the fort's defenders were defeated and a large portion of the city's population is believed to have committed suicide rather than submit to degradations of surrender. One legend about the origin of the fort says that the ancient hero Bhima, who was imbued with great strength by the semi-divine Nagas people, struck the ground where the fort is, and so caused a crack to form in the earth, out of which came a spring of water which would feed the reservoir. Number 5. Mamure Castle. The Mamure Castle is established in the 4th century BCE and it is located in Anamur district, Mersin province in Turkey. It is built on the remains of the Roman city of Rükmonai. Mamure Castle is one of the largest and best protected castles in Turkey, with parts of the modern castle being originally built upon the ruins of an ancient Roman castle that once dominated the same land. 11th century CE, the Armenian kingdom of Sicilia rebuilt the fortification as a method of defending against pirates, and it would be later maintained by the Byzantine Empire. When Turkish forces captured the castle in 1221, they restored it and expanded its fortifications. Several more times throughout the centuries, the castle was attacked, destroyed and rebuilt, until during the reign of the Ottoman Empire it was repaired, further maintained consistently, even used for a time as caravanserai. Number 4. Edinburgh Castle. The Edinburgh Castle is established in the 2nd century BCE or the 12th century CE and is located in Edinburgh, Scotland. Iron Age settlers inhabited Castle Rock, where the castle now rests, and it possibly served as a settlement and hill fort of the Celtic Briton people known as the Votadini, and also possibly for little Scottish tribes. Then, in the epic Welsh poem Upsalvangoding, a reference to the stronghold of Edin appears, which is generally assumed to refer to Castle Rock and suggests that some fortification existed where during this time. It would not be until the 14th century account of an 11th century tragic tale involving Saint Margaret. Over the next several centuries, Edinburgh Castle would play a prominent role in Scotland's history, including its resistance to English invasion and the Wars of Scottish Independence, with the final military conflicts involving the castle taking place in 1745 during the Second Jacobite Rising. Number 3. Taoping Qiang Village. The Taoping Qiang village is established in the 1st century BCE and is located in Taoping district, Lee County. One of the most interesting fortified dwellings in this part of Asia, the Qiang building style heavily relied on stone making for structures that could last a long time and proved of interest to various military leaders interested in defensible positions. Originally, these fortress villages were composed of between 30 and 100 households and would be clustered together in a small geographic area. The design construction is a unique and aesthetic blend of stone layering, featuring multiple stories and with the buildings often connected by a system of tunnel-like passages that helped connect the household and provide additional defense. There's a long and harrowing history to the hardy people now bearing the name Qiang. They refer to themselves as RMA, not the least for the massive devastation that took place during the 2008 earthquake when as many as 30,000 Qiang were killed. Modern approaches to tourism have been an interesting issue as well, since the preservation of the historic elements has sometimes come at the cost of the modern residents being relocated. Number 2. Maiden Castle. Maiden Castle is established 600 BCE and is located in Dorset, England. Ancient Celtic peoples lived and grew crops in the area as far back on the Bronze Age, around 1800 BCE. The fortifications of Maiden Castle were built around 600 BCE, during a time where a great many such Iron Age hill forts were being constructed. Further development of the site greatly expanded the site of the fort until it was the largest in Britain, perhaps in all of Europe. Ramparts and ditches were added, increasing the complexity of the fort's defenses. The sites of antiquity have inspired artists from all backgrounds and cultures. There is something uniquely vibrant in the immense sense of time and the sense of communion with peoples who have come before. Communion with the ancients has often been a powerful condition for the arrival of an artistic muse. In this case, John Ireland, an English composer, took inspiration from the site of Maiden Castle and composed Maiden, which in Britain Celtic means great hill. It's considered one of his great works. So, let's begin with our list. Number 1. Citadel of Aleppo. The Citadel of Aleppo is established 3000 BCE and it is located in Aleppo, Syria. Aleppo is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, perhaps as far back as the 6th millennium BCE. A jewel of the Middle East, Aleppo has survived wars, famines, Roman and Greek invasions, and modern conflicts. The city was once in the largest in Syria before the civil war of 2010s damaged the infrastructure and saw most of the population turned to refugees. The first structures built on the citadel hill go back to the 3rd millennium BCE with the ruins of a temple to the storm god Hadad, and the surrounding city was later known as the city of Hadad. It was only after the conquest of Aleppo by Alexander the Great that the true fortification of the citadel hill began under the rule of the Greek general Seleucus I Nicator, who took control of splinter of the Greek Empire after Alexander's death.